A woman can survive childbirth and still die from pregnancy. Have a man who's just gonna move on while you are stuck dealing with the aftermath. This isn't about never having children or demonizing men. It's about choosing wisely.
Well, thank you for saying that you didn't give me enough grace, because I do agree with you. And I think a lot of my anger came from you not delivering what the expectations were.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that there. But I think that I had to learn how to, when I'm done with someone, I'm done with them. And because you share a child, you can't necessarily be done with them.
Yeah.
So I think I had to learn how to wrap my mind around the fact that, like, this is for life.
Time and time again, I cringe seeing young women, girls, even older women make what I consider to be the biggest mistake of their lives, and that is permanently connecting themselves through having a child to someone that they shouldn't even have considered for 2 seconds. Because the person you choose to have a child with will be single-handedly the biggest and most important decision you ever make in your life. My goal for this video is that I hope that I can reach someone out there, especially young girls, and if 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, someone comes back, if this platform still exists, comes back and comments on this video and say, hey, I saw this video and it prevented me from making the biggest mistake of my life, and that's, again, having a child with the wrong person, that would make me happy. That's literally my goal for this video. I hope that young women, young girls, and like I said, even older women really take into account the complexities that comes with not only carrying and having a child, but raising a child and the person you choose to have that child with. Whether or not they choose to be present, that makes a huge difference. For this video, as you can see by the cover, I'm going to be using Shanice, which is Evelyn Lozada's daughter, in the Game's recent podcast episode as example, but I'm also going to refer to Ashanti and Nelly, and also Nicki Minaj and her husband Kenneth Petty. I do want us to highlight the very real consequences of physically carrying a child, because I feel like this is something people neglect. The truth about having a child is pregnancy and childbirth is violent. A lot of people try to romanticize pregnancy. They try to downplay it. They try to, glorify what it means to carry and have a child. But the truth of the fact of the matter is, pregnancy is violence. Your body is literally under physical attack. That's why it's trying to make a lot of changes, trying to keep you alive, because that's the goal at the end of the day. And after a certain point of your body fighting, it can't fight anymore. It's like, you know what? This foreign object, foreign thing has overtaken your body. And your body's trying to keep you alive. When it gets to the point where it feels like it cannot do that adequately, support the both of you, it expels that thing, which is when you start to have a child, when you go into childbirth. I want us again to discuss the hormonal changes that comes with being pregnant, the very physical and real dangers of having a child, which is that you can die. Women die every single day from having children. Pregnancy is treated like a social choice, right? You have peer pressure. You have societies and cultures that force women into having children. You have cultures that make women, even the most progressive of cultures, make women feel inadequate if they choose to not have children, or if they're unable to conceive and carry children, which a lot of times does have to do with the men. But the men are not even looked at as part of the problem. Rather, that as a woman you should be able to conceive, without even considering the fact that maybe I don't want to have a child, maybe I don't want to die, maybe I don't want to put myself on the line. But at the end of the day, the goal is to have kids. And I always cringe when I see, especially the older TV shows, when are you going to give me grandbabies? When are you giving me grandbabies? And a lot of people are very insensitive to the fact that maybe I don't want to carry a child, or maybe that person is actively trying or has tried to have a child and they couldn't succeed. A lot of people have miscarriages, which is something that's not talked about a lot. Miscarriages are a lot more common than people realize. Maybe, I don't want to change my entire lifestyle to carry a child. A lot of people will neglect the fact that pregnancy is a medically high risk condition. That's why your body has to work harder, right? Your body has been overtaken. It's trying to adapt to give you the best chance of survival, right? So that every organ system in your body starts altering. Again, your blood volume increases, your kidneys are working harder, your immune system is suppressed, which makes you more susceptible to infections and decreases your ability to fight off infections. your heart and your lungs, they start working harder. So again, pregnancy is not natural. That's what I'm trying to really get into your mind here. Pregnancy is not a natural occurrence. If it was, your body wouldn't be struggling so much to keep up with it. You are not glowing. You're under attack. Childbirth is one of the most physically traumatic thing that you can do. You have the tearing of your body. Yep, so people say, yeah, it will heal back. But the fact of the matter is your body is being ripped open so that this foreign object, this foreign thing can get out. That is violence. If somebody grabbed you from the street and just sliced you, wouldn't you consider that violence? Just like C-sections are also a form of violence, right? If somebody grabbed you from the street, took a sharp object and sliced you in the abdomen, penetrating different layers of your abdominal walls, to go inside and rip something out, would you not consider that violent? So I think a lot of people underestimate the real truth and the real realities of just how dangerous pregnancy and childbirth itself is. And I think a lot of the times society underplays it because they don't. If a lot of women had these thoughts before getting pregnant, a lot more women would say no, which we've seen happen. I remember especially during the pandemic, a lot of women were being very vocal. I remember there is one, I'm not going to name her, one particular beauty content creator that I follow. She was pregnant at the time and she was expressing her real fear of dying because she was so afraid because we were in a heightened state of the things that happen to bodies when you have super famous people like Serena Williams talking about how she almost died during childbirth because of racism. That's another key component that puts in danger even the women that are most fit. Their bodies are most physically designed to give birth more naturally. Even those women are at the highest risk, again, and that's Black women. So I remember she was so fearful of the fact that she's seeing a lot of this content and all of this knowledge has been heightened on social media, and so she was so scared. And I want people to truly understand that the fact that women choose to have children, a lot of the times, yes, it's societal pressure. People feel like if you're married, you have to have kids, or just to have kids for the sake of it, or to carry on a legacy, without considering the fact that you are asking someone to risk their lives. And it's very insensitive to ask people, when are you going to have kids? I may have done it when I was a bit ignorant to the subject, right? And that's why it's important to learn about things, and not only that, but change our minds about where we were wrong when it comes to certain things. And that's one of the things I really want people to stop asking people, when are they going to have kids? How many kids do they, why are you only having one child? That is extremely dangerous. And the fact that, you don't even consider that someone else knows what's best for them is very telling at, how much society values women's input when it comes to their own lives. I work in a behavioral health hospital. I have seen women come in because they have pregnancy related psychosis. Psychosis is when you lose touch with reality. You're seeing things that are not there, you're hearing things that are not there, you're thinking you're being followed, you're thinking you work for the CIA, things like that, and your brain is just not functioning within normal level to where you are now a danger to yourself and other people. Pregnancy attacks your body so much that some women lose touch with actual reality, and that is a real thing. I have also seen other women come in because after they've given birth, their hormones are all out of whack, for lack of a better word, that they want to kill their child, right? So then you have to remove them from that environment, help try to stabilize them to where they are back to functioning within normal limits. The pregnancy process itself has a lot of complications, and a lot of them, some women never fully recover from pregnancy. I remember I had a teacher, she was telling me about how after giving birth to her daughter, I know this is not funny, she can never hold her pee. And that's the light side of it, is when you consider that, during pregnancy, you can have preeclampsia and, eclampsia, which is when your blood pressure is so high it's dangerous. You can develop gestational diabetes, which is, you get diabetes from pregnancy when you've never had diabetes. Some people never recover. Some women, their bodies that tear, the bleeding, the changes that their bodies go through, some women never fully recover from pregnancy itself. And that's just pregnancy. I'm not even talking about childbirth. Childbirth, again, the tearing, the damaging of your pelvic floor. Some women, they have incontinence, they have chronic pain, they go through postpartum depression, and People think that once you give birth, you're in the clear, you're fine. That's not necessarily true. It's still considered, if you have pregnancy related symptoms and you die up to 42 days, it's still considered a pregnancy related death. I had a patient that came in the behavioral health facility. So if you've never worked in a behavioral health facility, a lot of the things that they do in a medical hospital, we do not have the equipment. We do not do in a behavioral health facility. A lot of it is for safety purposes. I remember the young woman came in one day postpartum, which is one day after giving birth, they brought her in. And I remember I was so shocked, like whatever we're doing for her here, they could have done at the hospital, because after pregnancy, especially one day after, you need to be monitored, because you could still be bleeding heavily. Your vitals could still malfunction. A lot could happen. And I was so shocked. So me knowing that we don't have a lot, we're not monitoring, we don't have a blood pressure on you a lot, medical hospitals, they'll just have you hooked up to the blood pressure, and other equipments to monitor your vitals. But we don't have that in a mental health hospital. So I was worried. I had to keep going to check on her. Okay, checking to see, are you bleeding? Are you making sure are you using the bathroom? Are you peeing? How much are you peeing? And, do you need to pump? How much are you pumping? And just make sure you don't have, mastitis, where, you get an infection in your breast. There's so much that comes with it. So giving birth is not the end all be all, right? And I haven't even gotten to the part of actually going home with the child, right? We're still here at the hospital. Now you've finally been, gone through this process, this violent process, and now you've given birth to a child, and now you're not monitored as closely once you leave and go home, which is why I couldn't understand why they would send her, so soon, because whatever medication we're giving her, they could give it to her there. They just had to probably get a sitter for her to make sure, she's not harming herself or harming the baby. And me saying all of this is not fear mongering, it's reality. And I briefly touched on, how racism makes it even more risky for Black women, particularly in America, because we know racism sucks and it impacts everything. Black women have the bodies mostly designed for safe pregnancy. Yet in America, they have the highest rate of death during childbirth. And that's one thing I want people really to understand. It's not because we're Black that we're dying. It's the racism. It's the symptoms not being attended to on time. We're not getting adequate intervention. We're not getting timely interventions that leads to death. Is it Angela Simmons, I think, has a friend who she had some complications, and the woman ended up dying because her symptoms weren't taken into account. You can develop blood clots, especially right after your delivery. You can also be bleeding, that leads to dying, to, just be frank with it. So there is a lot of complications with pregnancy itself. And don't be Black in America. Don't be a Black woman in America trying to have a child, because the racism makes people so incompetent. It's like racism is one of the biggest diseases of the mind that we need to address, but I don't think ever will, because it doesn't benefit those who are, in power and benefiting financially from the racism that happens. But we're not going to get into that today. But yeah, being in America as a Black woman makes having a child so much more complicated. So even if I am talking to women in general, specifically I want to talk to Black women on realizing the real dangers of having a child by a person, so that you are more conscious of the person that you are choosing to have that child with. Now, I know Shanice is not Black per se, even though, Evelyn claims to be Afro-Latina girl. Bye. I want people to take into account all of that comes with pregnancy itself and childbirth and delivery. And then we go into the postpartum, where, okay, now you've been sent home, you're still bleeding, even if you had a C-section or a vaginal birth, right? You're still bleeding, you're still healing, you've gone through this violent process, and you have a man who has the nerve to tell you that they want
Get
you
up.
to die.
It's your turn to change him.
I'm gonna take you back to this conversation we had. Before you kicked me under the table, I said, baby, I give you the world. I just ain't changing no diaper.
Oh my God.
And it rang true. Remember I told you I don't change diapers? Have I changed one? See, she don't like that shit, by the way.
No,
What?
I really feel like if you have a child and you are more than able, your hands are working, your fingers are fine, you have no arthritis, that you are more than able to help and wipe your child's ass too, if you can wipe your own. Because when he's 50, let's say, what are you going to be, 112? Yeah. You might need someone to wipe yours.
I got Harlem.
Yeah. And God willing, he does it. But did you wipe his?
Yeah, no.
Like this is all, it comes around.
Yeah, but I did tell you I don't change diapers from the beginning, before he was born.
Did
you think it was going to change? Like I would actually like flip and like do it?
I did.
Shanice was making this, trying to make it deep, talking about, oh yeah, what if, when you're older, you might need somebody to wipe your butt. First of all, my first thought was he might not need him to wipe him, because if you have enough money, you're going to a nursing home, usually your family members aren't the immediate people that's taking care of you. So that argument is not, as strong as she's trying to make it. And second of all, and the most important one is, children poop and they cannot wipe themselves. So it's not that deep. Children poop, you clean them. They get hungry, you feed them. They cry, you console them. It's simple. It's not deep. There's no complication, complexities. We don't need to write any, long paragraph theses about why a man should change a diaper. Okay? This woman has just gone through the most violent experience of her life, right? And you're telling her, I don't care what you went through. I'm not changing a diaper. All because you chose an immature, emotionally stunted child to have a child with. Like I said, there's a lot of things that's not talked about after giving birth, like postpartum hemorrhage, which can lead to shock and organ failure and death. And there's also something called late maternal death, which is when women die 43 days to a year, due to pregnancy-related complications. So a woman can survive childbirth and still die from pregnancy. Imagine having a child by someone who doesn't even value your life. Having a child by someone who says, hey, guess what? I don't care what you went through, even if you died. I'm not changing a diaper. And the psychosis I was talking about, even if it doesn't happen during pregnancy, even though it's rare, it does happen, and it can happen also after birth. Now you have a man telling you, hey, you're not special that I said I wanted to have a baby with you. It's what I want to do with any woman that I find attractive. And truth be told, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if that woman is attractive. I think anybody who's willing to spread it, he would have planted a baby in them and not think twice about what they're going to do with it. That's why he's pushing the responsibility on to the grandma, which has a teenage crush on him, and the mother. As long as he has the two of y'all, he's gonna be fine. And then he also said something about that he likes to let the child bond with the mother from the first few months of life, which is ridiculous, because children need to know both parents at the same time. I know it's not always possible. People break up, people die, the both parents aren't always there. But saying that, it just shows a lack of understanding and maturity in, spending time with your child from the time that they're born. The child can spend equal time with both parents and still learn to love both parents. I think he's trying to make the point that I'm going to let the child spend most of the time with the mother, so that, they love the mother more, and the mother needs more time because, she's the mom, she carried the child. It just says that, hey, the mom has the primary responsibility.
As long as he got you guys, as his little army, like he's going to be straight.
Sorry, but I feel like you manifested Blaze. You were mentioning another child before I got pregnant.
Yeah, true.
Like you manifested Blaze.
Yeah.
On our first date, you were talking about a Blaze, not him exactly.
Yeah.
But you were talking about a Blaze. So you agree with that?
I do agree with that. I think that, and
we talked about kids.
Yeah, true. But just so, you guys know, because you guys are, beautiful women. You guys are still like women, right? But men, right? Men see a baddie, we think like, I'm going to get her pregnant. That's what men think when they see a baddie.
You gamed me.
You gamed me.
I'm just asking.
Hey, I'm just saying.
So this man who's already shown you he has a complete disregard for your life. You're saying, I was so in love, I wanted to name the baby after him, yada yada yada. But you were so in love, yet you didn't choose to have a person that had a history of being a faithful boyfriend or husband. You choose a gangbanger who has multiple children by different women, who clearly has a problem with commitment, who clearly doesn't value women, who's still immature with tattoos all over his face. But I'm not gonna get into all of that. That's who you chose to be the parent to your child. After he told you that he made clear, you may not have understood it, that he did not want the child, to the point where you told him you were pregnant, that you ended up crying by his response.
So I guess she waited a little bit and then she told you. Yeah. Then I was like, did you tell your dad? And she was like, no, I'm gonna wait a little bit. But the thing about when she told me, I was shocked a little bit. Like literally, I was shocked. And we got into this, thing. I love being a dad, right? Like absolutely love being a dad. But I was shocked as shit. And I don't think it was the reaction that Sha wanted. So she cried a little bit.
and you're shocked now he doesn't want to be involved in the parenting, and now it seems like you just have a co-parenting situation that's probably going to be hell because he's, you know, spilling the breadcrumbs that, you know, if you try to, basically he told you nobody's gonna want you, love you, or care enough about you to marry you within 1 year. And if that person comes, you're basically radioactive, because now that person knows you have a child by him, and he is violent and aggressive, and he's immature. He cannot handle simple conversations or coexistence with another man that's going to be in his life, that, you know, maybe he's gonna have to square up with him, catch a fade or whatever. You chose that person and you expected him to be a responsible parent.
Sha got married next year, which is very unlikely, because no, I'm not. It has nothing to do with you and everything to do with me. I'm telling you, there's a thing that, like, soon as someone figures out that, like, your baby daddy is the game, it gets a little tricky for a man, because people think they know who I am, right? And so it gets a little, damn, am I gonna have to, like, catch a fade with this nigga? I know how he feels about his kids, so is he going, do I really feel like doing it? Yes, you're beautiful, and yes, I want to be with you, or yes, I love you, but I think that thought process and that courting stage lasts longer than a year, so it definitely won't be next year.
Right.
I'm just being honest.
And now you're over there crying while your mom is giggling in the back like a teenage girl, you know, because I'm pretty sure, sidebar, no, those questions you were asking about if he ever slept with your mom, the answer I didn't hear no. I heard that no answer to the fact that you guys had a threesome, because she changed the question so you'd be able to say no comfortably. But neither of them said no. So I wouldn't be surprised that they're on the phone giggling about what they did and how they're going to keep it from you, because you have two immature people in your life, starting with your mom, who was so abusive to you that you saw abuse in him and thought it was your chance to fix him, or the fact that you dealt with it with your mom for so long that you felt like you could handle him, that you permanently have connected yourselves to somebody who is going to make
You guys remind me of each other a lot.
We tell each other that every other day.
And when I met you, actually, you reminded me of my mom a lot, obviously two Sagittariuses, but very defiant and defensive and stubborn. But I think that I dealt with it with you because I dealt with it with her. Yeah. You're a little bit more, because you're a man, obviously, so naturally. But I think that, yeah, it was not as easy to deal with it with you, but it was familiar because I dealt with it with you. Okay, so I want to take this moment to clear the air on a few things. Uh-oh. Right? We're going to go down the rumor mill.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, did I ever sit on your lap when I was older? I did. Well, when I was like 12, when I was a child.
No.
Calling you uncle.
No.
Okay.
Well, the thing about that is, like, my own nieces don't sit on number one, I'm not fucking Santa Claus. Number two, I'm not inappropriate with children ever. Like, even my own nieces, as much as I love them, I squeeze them, I hug them. And if they're, let's say when they were 2 and 3 years old, obviously you pick little kids up. They love to be picked up, through in the air, you hug them. But as they get older, you have to respect your unclehood, right? And you have to respect them growing up as, young men and young women, right? And so I'm not even on those vibes with my actual nieces and nephews or any of my homies' kids. They're little. They call you Uncle Game. You throw them up. You love them. Anybody that knows me knows that about me. And so when people make up these rumors, again, I think it's like absurd. I laugh the shit off and I just be like, people are absolutely fucking insane. But let's go to the next one.
Because people are like, I was calling you uncle.
I don't even remember you from no type of time.
Because we didn't meet, right? But okay, so next one. Were the mother of your other children and my mom best friends? And was I calling her auntie?
I think about that when I see that, right? I think about it all the time. And, I see the multiple pictures of, like, you with Tiffany, but people have to understand what Hollywood is and what celebrities are, right?
Next one. Did you ever have sex with my mom? And did we ever have a threesome? With that,
that is absurd. Like, that shit.
No. It was, he ran a train on us. So we were both there together.
That would, like, I damn near, like, did a Prince and walked off.
I'm sorry. I have to ask the question.
The thing about it, and by the way, let me know. I'll let you know. Evelyn is a 50-year-old grandma. She's absolutely beautiful. Just so you know. Right? But never, never have I ever?
Right, yeah.
Like, never. One of the best looking grandmas on earth.
Thanks, Jack.
No, I mean, you got to give it to yourself. You're 50 years old.
But I have a bone. I have a big bone to pick with you.
Okay.
How did you make me a grandmother before 50?
You know, I remind you all the time of how, like, good you look at 50, and, like, not to slight anyone else, but, like,
you are so smart and you're so witty.
No woman should risk post-birth complications for a man who's not going to show up when she needs him. Having a child with someone will shape your reputation, your finances, your peace, your mental state. So many things come with that. And the fact that you didn't even care enough to look into this man that you had a child with, to know that this man is a
They called you a
felon.
felon.
Yeah. I mean, true.
Are you
So,
a felon?
I am. So I don't feel slighted by someone
Yes, you are a
trying to
felon.
like throw like my past at me. Yeah, I'm a felon. My mama know I'm a felon. My kids know I'm a felon. My fans know I'm a felon, and that's just what it is.
It was actually one thing I did want to clear up that I kept on seeing.
What?
So people were like, because a few blogs had picked it up, and they were like, is she the only one that didn't know he was a felon? Did you see that?
I did, but again, it was so much going on with that episode that I can't give it energy. So
That was a
what was
popular
it?
one, right? Like, as if I didn't know. And it's funny because people really don't know me, which is great because we have this podcast, and I think now people are just starting to get to know my personality. They kind of just knew me on the surface. My humor is dry. You know, it's dry, it's sarcastic. Like, you're the jokey one.
Yeah.
That's not me. So when I had positioned the question and I was like, are you a felon? You know, I was just being sarcastic and more so asking it from a sense like a host to a guest, not necessarily like someone I know personally, you know? So like you, for instance, I asked
So you
questions.
knew, you were clear on that.
That's like saying, you know, the sky is not blue. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, obviously. And then I'm like, well, how many felonies do you have? Blaze is going to ask. So it was more out of sarcasm, not necessarily coming from the unknown.
Yeah.
You know, and I just found that to be funny because I can see how it can get misinterpreted.
When the entire public knew, to where the point where you are defending him on a national TV show in America, and I'm sure they have it outside America as well. You're defending him, saying he's not a felon, only for him to look you dead in your eyes and say, yeah, I am a felon. My mom knows it, and everybody knows it. You didn't know that, but you only cared about catching a lick, and you weren't even smart about being, I'm not going to call you out your name, but you know what I mean. You weren't even smart that while you were out here trying to do what you do, that you waited until the proper age of 32 to make the biggest mistake of your life. And I had a lot of empathy for you until you showed a complete disregard to the fact that your mom clearly has a connection to his baby's mother. Whether they were friends, whether they were acquaintances, you completely disregarded. Your mom said they were never friends. The lady said they were friends. You had a friend, you had a child with your friend, mom's, even if not friend, but someone she clearly has a lineage to. The other thing is, that was 10 years ago. I don't care. You showed a complete disregard, which shows your mental state. You care more about trying to do what your mom taught you, which is trying to get a man with money, but she didn't teach you to be smart enough, because in your mind you thought you could do both with him when he clearly wasn't a good candidate. And okay, let's say this man, you chose to be naive at 32. Let's say this man told you a lot of stories. He sold you a dream, because I'm pretty sure he probably did. Sold you a dream, said, I'll be there for you financially. I want to have a baby with you. Sold you all this fairy tale. Emotional support does not stop the bleeding, does not heal the stitches, doesn't heal the diapers that he said he won't change. And for him to tell you in advance, and you somehow thought that was going to change, when this man seems like he leads with the most toxic form of masculinity there is, that he will stand his ground knowing that he's wrong just to prove how masculine he is. I don't know, something he needs to clearly work on, like a lot of things he needs to work on, because he's obviously a man child. And you didn't, you know, which just tells me you didn't heed a lot of the warnings. I will be making a video about single mothers, and I know a lot of people blame single mothers, yada yada yada. However, we also have to hold people accountable for making terrible decisions. Like women who had a child by a man, he wasn't taking care of the child. They're going to have a second and third and still complaining that they're not taking care of the child. Or women who have children with men that have multiple children by different women and expect it to be different from them. Because I'm pretty sure your colorist ass mother told you that you were somehow better than, you know, certain black women that they look down on, only for her to get headbutted in a marriage because she thought she was superior. And I'm sure she instilled all those values and beliefs in you, that you're superior to certain black women because your skin tone is something else, your hair texture and your heritage make you superior, only for you to get the same terrible men that did not marry that woman he had an entire show with about marrying. But you're Latina, so you should have been different, right? You're not. Another thing that really got me is when she said, I feel like you manifested Blaze, because you were talking about a child when he was selling you that dream and you refused to pick up all the red sirens and red flags that were coming with them. You're saying, oh, you manifested Blaze. A man talking about a child doesn't mean that you should have a child with him. Okay, I'm going to say something a lot of people may disagree with, but it is what it is. The decision to have a child is a woman's and a woman's alone. Whether she's married, whether she's in a committed relationship, whether she's single, whether she has situationship, it's hers and hers alone, right? And so people shouldn't tell women, hey, you need to have a child because X, Y, Z, right? As a woman, you should be the one to know what your body is going to go through physically, what your life is going to look like afterwards. I think a lot of people don't know what their life is going to look like until after having a child, because you've never had a child, you've never had that responsibility. So that's when you're truly realizing it. But you can heed the warnings of people who have been through it, right? And I'm saying it's a woman's in a woman's alone. I think women need to ask themselves, am I willing to die to have a child? Am I willing to change my entire life to have a child? Am I willing to have to sneak in a shower? I can't travel. I can't have a house that's completely silent for days and hours at a time. So those are real questions to ask yourself if you want to have a child. Women like Shanice, Ashanti, and Nikki, who married, a convicted sex offender, is not having to deal with the realities of what that means for them and their children. Because whether or not, again, the man is actively present, it makes a big difference. Their reputation matter and their behavior matter. And whether we like it or not, unfortunately, society will treat them as such. So as a parent, the best thing you can do is give your child a responsible parent. And that applies to men and women. A responsible parent, financially, emotionally. You go and you marry someone with a terrible reputation and then get upset that people use it against your child. That's you. You made the decision to give your child that parent. So that responsibility falls on you. You're responsible for your child getting that backlash. I remember I saw a TikTok once where a man complication that occurs during childbirth, right? And so they're like, either we can save one but not the other. The man said he would choose to save the child and he would go find another woman to raise that child. So this man would have let you die. You can die. And he will take what he sees as his legacy. He will choose a newborn baby over you. And doesn't completely devalues your life. And I remember, there was a conversation on TikTok even about women saying, save me, not the baby, save me, not the baby. And all of this we've discussed has only been pertaining the physical pregnancy and, childbirth. We haven't even talked about when you go home, the sleepless nights, the crying, the tired, the exhaustion that sometimes, yes, leads to psychosis, the depression that comes from it. You're still bleeding, you're still healing, while still having to wake up like clockwork to take care of someone that is depending on you, because the reality is they didn't ask to be here. So you do have a responsibility to change their diaper, to feed them, to console them, to be up with them. But it doesn't make it any less difficult. And having the right partner who's there to help you, whether or not you have help, is going to be tough. But having a partner who is present and chooses not to help makes it even worse, because the physical pain alone, plus the emotional labor you have to do with coming to terms that you have someone who does not care to help you out, is not something cute to witness. And let the parent not be present who opt out, because men do have that option more than women, right? Women are usually shamed for choosing to opt out of giving their child up, or giving it to the grandma, or giving it to the family member, right? You're deemed as a terrible woman or a terrible parent, or people will make fun of you for it, use it as digs against you. But men, they get to opt out all the time. Nobody holds them. Yes, there's conversations about it, but nobody hold their feet to the fire like they do women. And if you have a man who works and comes home and tells you, oh, I work, so that's my job, so I'm tired. Being tired from work and being at home with a child all day, every day, that can drive anybody crazy. I know in different cultures, some people have a village and it's easier, they help with that. Yes. However, we're talking about particularly women in America. America is such an individualistic society. Everybody got their own stuff going. So nobody, even if people help you for a little bit, nobody has the time to dedicate fully to you and your child. We have a lot of women who battle depression. And again, you can have help and still have postpartum depression. You have anxiety. You have, to be strategic about when am I going to shower? When am I going to eat? When am I going to sleep? And you have men who, in so many words, tell you your exhaustion does not matter. That's your child. As a mother, that's your responsibility. And breastfeeding, if you have to breastfeed, wake up every hour or every 2 hours, and if you don't pump, your breast gets swollen, you can get mastitis again, you can get infection, you're in pain. My God, it's just so, I don't know how many times I can say it. It's just a lot. The mental load is relentless and the emotional labor is nonstop. So the cost is daily, not occasionally, right? And you have the financial cost. If you have to go back to work, if you have to still pay your rent, if you're a single mother, now you're taking care of not just you with another child. If that child gets sick, your insurance, your this, your diapers, your food. A lot of men will say, oh, I love my children, like he said, right? Oh, I love my kids. No, you like the idea of having a child, but you don't want to be there physically to provide, the physical labor or emotional labor. Even financially, he said, if you thought you had a baby by me to trap me, you're going to be in the trap yourself. You and your mama got it. You two can take care of them. So if you thought the game was going to be helping you out, which it clearly seems like he's not actively with you in that sense anymore. Maybe you guys are trying to figure out your co-parenting situation still. You are on your own. Which brings me to the key point of this video. Co-parenting with the wrong person is psychological warfare. You are always trying to figure out, first of all, like I said, whether or not the person is present, it's still difficult, because if they're not present at all, you have little to no help. And you have someone that, you're taking care of their child who's waiting until the child. That's one of the things that annoys me, sidebar, about when kids want to go. I understand you want to get to know your parent, girl, whatever. Maybe it's cultural difference for me. You had your mother who struggled with you, only for people to jump on a podcast and vilify women for being single mothers instead of holding the men accountable for not being present fathers. I mean, like I said, people don't always have to be together to have a good, parental relationship. However, we know once they're not in the same house, most men will do very little when it comes. They might have the child for a weekend or a few days, or even provide financially for the child. But being there is consistently being there physically, emotionally, and financially. All three are important, particularly in this culture that we live in. This is assuming that you have a child that functions within normal limits. Don't have a child who has a disability. Having disabled children is so much more difficult in the care that you provide for them on a daily basis, and people will judge women without offering any help to them, and will use their child's disabilities as digs at the women, will even blame them for things that they couldn't help. Now, are there women who do things in pregnancy that can lead to disabilities in the child, and birth defects and things like that? Yeah, that's possible, but most of the time disabilities is not something that the person themselves caused, right? But again, if you have a child that functions within normal limit, you thank God. And then when you have a child who doesn't who has health issues, that makes it 100 times harder. And again, if you have to do it by yourself, it's even more difficult. There are women who want to give up their child. If you have a child that functions, that has disability, society judges you. And if you choose to give the child up, society judges you. So it doesn't matter what you do, society will judge you for things that are beyond your control at times. No matter how in love you are, no matter how you feel about the person, you need to make sure as a woman that you solely are ready and willing to have a child. Nobody else has any say so in that decision. You and you alone are going to be the one that is about to die. It's your life. Relationships end, marriages end, but children do not. You cannot undo shared parenthood. And a lot of people think, it's for 18 years. First of all, 18 years is a long time of your life to give up. Could you imagine being in prison for 18 years? Okay. And then it's not just 18 years. It goes so much farther than that. You have a permanent connection to someone that you may never have wanted to see again. I think Shanice talked about, when I break. When I, break up with someone, I end it and we don't have connections again, but because now we have a child. You mean to tell me you never even considered that before you had this child with this man who clearly is not fit to be, in a relationship, because you thought you were going to have this fairy tale romantic life that he sold you, despite all of the data from his previous relationships? For example, when you take Nelly and Ashanti, they have, chemistry, but not consistency. Clearly they like each other. Clearly they enjoy each other. But the consistency is why they broke up in the first place, right? Or the lack thereof. And to have a child where, again, a man says, until he can speak or tell me he wants X, Y, Z, I don't want anything to do with him. So the first 3 years of this child's life, I want nothing to do with him. That's all your responsibility. To him, it's like, I did you a favor. You wanted a child. You're getting old, so I like you enough, you like me enough, so I'm giving you this child. Now, that's your problem. Once he's able to walk around, follow me around, and, ask me for things, I may handle him here and there. A lot of parents feel like they don't have to be directly involved with the children. And I know for sure for certain cultures, especially the men, they're not involved in their child's life until, you know, they're like teenagers. I mean, they're here in the house, but like they're not actively raising, you know, child rearing. They're not rearing the child. They're just there. They're feeding them. They're around them, whatever. But it's not until the child starts making decisions on their own that, you know, they start to implement discipline, or just tell them no, or just try to bully them into not doing certain things. But you don't have that connection with them. You never created that bond, that line of communication where they could come to you or to even value you and your opinion. But now that they're old enough to feel like, oh, I want to do this, and if you disagree with them, you either bully them or you try to punish them for something that, you know, they never had the guidance to not do in the first place. And when you have a child with someone, you don't just co-parent. You either co-suffer or you co-thrive. Again, that's why it becomes important. Is this person emotionally mature? And if you don't have a steady, stable relationship, yes, I know relationships can be steady and stable and still end, but I would consider having that at least at a baseline to know that, you know, don't be delusional like Shanice and ignore the red flags. One thing I always knew was no matter how young and dumb I was, I always knew I never wanted to have a permanent connection with somebody that I did not see in my future. So don't be delusional just because someone is telling you this and that, or just because you've been in a relationship for a long time. And specifically for the young women who think, you know, having a child with someone, some people do it intentionally to keep them around, only for you to mess up your own life trying to keep a connection with someone that you shouldn't even be regarding for more than 5 seconds. A co-parenting situation is not seasonal. It's a life sentence. Are you willing to do life with this person? Are you willing to go to prison with this person, basically? Because it is a life sentence. You are locked up or locked in with this person that you may or may not want something to do with, where you could have easily broken up, gone your separate ways. Now you permanently are connected to this person. They can make or break your life. They can intimidate the people around you. They can give you a hard time when it comes to the courts. It's not just you co-parenting in the house, right? You have court situation, you have long-term stress, you have emotional labor. I think he was saying that the game was saying, you know, we had a moment of fire with fire. You guys just had a child. Your child's not even 5 yet, and you're already experiencing this. Can you imagine what the future is going to look like? Even before, you know, even though she now is thankful that he talked her out of it, he was adamant that she named the baby something. And even though she didn't want to, and she's saying she's grateful for it now, but the point is this man will bulldoze over your life. And another misleading thing people like to say is, oh, don't worry, they'll change when the baby comes. Children do not create maturity. Okay, people need to get out of that mind. If anything, it exposes you. It exposes your flaws, exposes your character, exposes your shortcomings. Things won't just magically work out just because you think they should. Have a man who's just gonna move on while you are stuck dealing with the aftermath. This isn't about never having children or demonizing men. It's about choosing wisely and making a permanent decision that's going to alter your life. Because once you have a child, your freedom narrows, and this man's controllability of your life, whether you like it or not, skyrockets. You can recover from a bad relationship, but you do not recover from a bad co-parenting situation. The person you choose to have a child with is the most important decision of your life, not because of romance, but because of consequence. Not chemistry, not vibes, and definitely not fantasy. If you take anything away from this conversation, I want it to be, as a woman, are you willing to die to have a child for a man who does not value your life? And are you willing to give up your life, not in the physical sense, but not only in the physical sense, but in the structure of what your life is right now? Because motherhood is not punishment, but with the wrong person, it definitely can be.